It's the only thing that'll help my situation. Alright guys, time for a project truck video. We're gonna get this carburetor off of there, or we already did. 4 bolts, throttle spring bracket, air cleaner, my little custom-made throttle linkage, 2 vacuum lines in the front, brake booster line in the back. Pretty simple. I'm gonna try to find out why this thing's running so rich. Get that carburetor fixed. 62 project truck video 102. It's been flooding, fouling out spark plugs, getting real cantankerous. It's mad when I let it sit. Let's go through that carburetor, see what we can do to correct that. Stay tuned. Pop the fuel ball off. There's the float. Sits at about the right height. We want to find out what is going on with our overfueling. Now, I don't like this at all. Looks like corrosion. It's on here too. I got a power valve. I suspect that my cam's kind of big, and this, look at that nasty stuff. That could be a problem right there. This is a 6.5 power valve, opens at 6.5 inches of vacuum. My cam in that truck is about 10 to 12 inches of vacuum. You generally want these half of your engine's idle vacuum, so I got a 5.5 to put in there. Might even be able to go to 4.5, but I'm going to try a 5.5 first. This only took about 5 minutes to get apart. But I definitely want to clean all this off of here. Make sure we start from scratch with a nice clean surface. We're going to put a new power valve in there, and we're going to change this carburetor. Comes with 72 jets. This little guide port. This is something the old Holley didn't have. I'm not sure what its purpose is. Probably to redirect fuel or something to that effect. Oh no, wait, there's just a cavity back there. Those are the air bleeds, I suppose. But the power valve right here, this opens when vacuum drops. So you definitely want this to work in the right time. You don't want it opening too soon, like I believe mine was. I think this was my problem, but I'm not sure. I do know one thing. Sitting out there in the grass for 3 days, the fuel bow was low. I pulled the spark plugs out of it, and cylinder 2 and 7 were wet with fuel. So I'm going to also have to change my oil when I get done with this. And I'm going to go from a 72 jet down to a 68, which has nothing to do with idling, but the plugs are so black that it had to be too rich, because I've driven it a few times. Between the power valve, I believe, opening too soon and the primary jets being a little rich, that's what you get. That is not supposed to look like that. So if I keep trying to run it that way, eventually it's going to hurt that Blueprint 383, and that was $6,000. We don't want to hurt it. So I'm going to go through this and try to get this carburetor working good. If you saw the video, I put the electric choke on it. This carburetor was a manual choke carburetor. That's why they don't match. But I had a carburetor with a choke on it, so I took it off of that instead of spending $100 for one. This gasket also has some signs of contamination on it. We've got all new gaskets, power valve. I'm waiting on the jets. We're going to get into this carburetor when the jets come into stock, which I believe is going to be Sunday. Be the same video, but a whole new day. For now, we're going to get this power valve in there. I got to scrape this gasket off of here, though, very carefully. Want to make sure that gasket stays centered. Got my gasket set. Since I don't have the jets yet, well, I'm going to use a AED, Automotive Engine Design. It's supposed to be pretty good. They got good reviews. Hopefully the reviews are updated. Some people leave a review when they get it and go, that looks cool, and then when it doesn't work, they don't update the review. But I'm just going to set this on. We're not going to bolt anything in yet. I'm going to put a couple bolts in it just to hold it till I get the jets. If you had a really high-end car, you can change these metering blocks out. There's other adjustments they do on the metering blocks, but we're not doing any of that. We're not, you know, we're not running an 8,000 horsepower race car. Well, 800. Every car's got 500 or 800 horsepower, but they get on the dyno and all of a sudden they have 270. But in any event, that's a different video. Let's see if we can find those jets and get back on this. I'm also going to clean the spark plugs with this here tool. Spark plugs are expensive. I will blow shop air in there again, make sure there's nothing left down in the center of the plug. This is only going to be for testing purposes if I foul another plug and that kind of stuff. I'm not seriously going to put them all back in, but I'm going to have them as spares. It's like 25, 30 bucks for a set of spark plugs. A lot cheaper than if you dump sand into your engine. We'll do all 8 of these. We'll have them as spares. We'll get back on the carbs. See that? Never trust a tool. She'll lie to you and take all your money. All right, some number 68 jets. 72s are out, stored in their appropriate location for safekeeping if we may need to put them back in. I'm trying this as an experiment, so totally guessing, no air fuel meters or anything. I'm just gonna put 68s in it, drive it 10 miles or so, see how it runs, and look at the plugs. Then I'll know if I'm on the right track. I think the power valve was my main problem. It was blown because it would trickle fuel down halfway until the bowl was just about empty, which is the level of the power valve. So that new power valve, I believe, is going to fix my problem. This is just because the plugs never looked like they were close to correct fuel ratio. We'll see. Let's get these things popped in there. Make sure these are packaged correctly.
What's up, Jimmy?
What's up, Ryan? How you doing, man?
How you doing?
Doing excellent.
Nice truck.
Thanks.
I can't remember if that's the first time I've seen that or not, because every time I've seen it, you got a shiny 12.
What you rebuilding, Carb?
Yep. It's my last go before it goes to fuel injection.
Gotcha.
Give it one more try.
That's it.
It goes in the trash bin history otherwise with the other Holleys.
I've never had luck with Holley.
And the Edelbrocks are a little more forgiving, but
Yeah.
Holleys, when you get them right, they're awesome.
Oh, hell yeah.
But you're always tinkering with them. And it sits a while, it doesn't run right. Just tired of that. Both of them. Let's get this thing back on the 62 and see how she runs. Looks like we might be getting some weather. Gonna have to get this thing running. Alrighty then. This I have set up so that I put a nut under it. I put it on the stud and then I put a bolt in here. There's a threaded hole in the carburetor base. Works out really well, stops it from turning and all. It's held pretty securely. I do have to leave the washer out of this one hold down nut, but the rest of them get the washers like I prefer. It works. Got a phenolic spacer on there to reduce heat dissipation into the carburetor. It doesn't stop it. It just reduces it. Let me get this thing bolted down. I got my fuel line on. I'm running a manifold vacuum on my timing to try to clean up the idle a little bit. It gives you more timing at idle if you're hooked to manifold vacuum, which is what I prefer. It burns slightly cleaner in theory. Sometimes theories go the way of the dodo bird, but it seems to work so far. And the carburetor's not flooding. PCB, a couple of bolts, we'll fire this thing up. A lot of people over tighten the carburetor pull down bolts too, and they really only go to like 7 or 8 foot-pounds at the most. You can probably do less than that. I do them by feel. Once it feels pretty snug, I just give it another little bump. It's good. If you over tighten them, you can twist the base of the carburetor. So we go around when it's fully tightened down. Make sure none of them feel like they got any looser. Have to open the throttle to clear this bolt. This will go on here. Put a little thread lock on there. I really like the design with the free floating return springs because they don't tend to get bound up. This came in a kit. I want to say it was like 15-20 bucks on Amazon or eBay or something like that. I could put a nut on here, but I don't really think it needs it, so I don't. We're looking for lightweight, high performance. That's what we're doing with this truck. Just a joke before you start typing. I think we're about ready to fire this thing up. Alright, since my battery's dead, I got a Weize battery, W-E-I-Z-E, and it's an AGM. Should be a monster of a battery, have a lot more reserve capacity for key on engine off at a car show with LED lights on or something. So we're going to try that out. I think it'll be good. See good reviews about them online, so we're going to try one for ourselves. This truck sits a couple of weeks at a time. Apparently my battery's 4 years old, and they don't seem to like that hot weather and sitting combined. So let's get this hooked up. It is wired the other way from the battery I took out, but the cables will reach. I left them long enough to reach, just for that purpose. If you're ever out on the road, your battery dies, and only one battery can possibly fit an old vehicle like this, and they don't have it, you might have a tough time. Get this down on a post. Hook up our negative last. I kind of like the recess so that the positive's not sitting up on top of the battery so much like the other one was. What really matters, how well it works. I do have to relocate my ground. I'm going to drill a hole in my fender well. There's plenty of metal on this truck. I do have to get an open end wrench for that to get to that, unless I turn this. We can do that. I can get with that. I'm going to make a hole for my ground wire to be in a new location for a body ground. When we come back, we're going to fire this thing up and see how my repaired carburetor works. Alright, I got my new ground. That's all good. I'm going to have to reshape this. This battery's a little bigger than the other one. Let's fire this thing up, see how it runs. Now I got a battery that'll work and a carburetor that should work. maybe not. Maybe I don't have a carburetor. It should work. Let's see where the float bowls are. That looks pretty good. That one's a little high. So we'll tweak that a little bit. There's our fuel pressure, 5.5. Should be good with that. I think I played with it with the key on too long and the choke came off. I need to wire that choke into my alternator S terminal so it doesn't do that. I don't want it to pop through the carburetor, and that's how I think I hurt the power valve last time. I do see a little coolant on this hose. Snug some of those up. I love hot rod stuff. Never-ending cascade of fun and excitement and tweaking and tuning and tinkering and all the stuff you do with hot rods. It actually is acting like it's too lean now. Let's do this. Bring the choke on a little bit. Release the choke speed. Yeah, it's definitely too lean. I opened the secondaries a touch while I had it off, and I probably need to back those down, but we'll see. Yep. Now that it's not flooding, the idle's too high with the secondaries. I just bumped them like a half a turn. But it's not flooding anymore. It wouldn't stay running before. No matter how high I had the idle, it would just butt and stall. So I gotta close them secondaries a little to get my idle down, because I can't do it on the idle screw. Cool, progress. It might not be idling correctly yet, but we're headed in the right direction. To adjust those secondaries with the carb on the motor, I use these this gear wrench bit set and an 8mm. These little bits snap in here like this, and you can turn those secondaries without taking the carburetor off. Should be in the Amazon store. So if you guys are interested in one of those Weize batteries, I'll put a link down in the description. I found them at a really good deal. So for an AGM battery, super powerful. You heard it just spin that motor over like it was nothing, trying to get fuel in the carburetor. So far so good. I'll keep you posted over time. We'll see how that thing holds up, but it seems like a pretty good deal for what they cost. They're under $200 for an AGM battery. Check the link in the description. All right, that's about $850. It's idling nice now. Everything's good. My fan's cycling on and off. This thing's ready for Old Town now. Don't dare me, I'll do it. I think the problem with this was the power valve. I might have the primary float a little low, but I'm gonna rock it that way. It's running good, I'm not gonna mess with it. And I'll see if it gives me any more trouble over the next week or two. I'll put fuel injection on it if I have to, but I'd rather not. It's expensive, more complicated. If you have a problem, you're stuck, you can't get a part with fuel injection. It's bad enough with this setup, but I mean, realistically, I could get a carburetor at the auto parts store. Most of them have at least a 600. I could throw it on there to make it home, right? That Delta Pag fan, I'm telling you what, if you need a fan and your vehicle's running a little hot, that Delta Pag fan is a beast. So, Dakota dash working great. Everything's good. Make sure it doesn't run when I shut it off. Nice. So there you go, project truck video 102, I believe this was. Hope you enjoyed it, got something from it. If you're having problems with your Holley carburetor, it's not really hard. You can do that on the motor. Of course, you got to be careful with small parts and stuff around. But if you put a little cup under the bottom bolt on the float bowl, you can pull one out, let it drain the fuel. and do all that on the truck or car. But I wanted to do that because I wanted to look at my transfer slots, make sure my butterflies were in the transfer slots. You only want a tiny bit of that transfer slot exposed, at the most they say about 20 thousandths. If it gets into that too much, then it dumps fuel because it thinks you're in part throttle. So you gotta be real careful about that. But hope it helps you out. Maybe you'll torque the like button before you head out. And hope I see you in another video. Don't forget my day in the shop videos, 100 some odd project truck videos to check out on the main channel if you want to take a look. Hope I see you there, because you're awesome.